Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. Today we are going to analyze another objection that has been raised against Ustaz Javed Ahmad Ghamidi and his views regarding the Prophet's night journey. It is also called Isra or Miraj. So it is said that Ustaz Javed Ahmad Ghamidi denies the miraculous powers of the Almighty because he thinks that this journey took place in a vision or a dream shown to him, whereas people believe that it was a physical journey. The Almighty took the Prophet to the skies, to the heavens, and showed him various views for his instruction. And Ustaz Ghamidi, according to people, he does not acknowledge this, and the reason perhaps is that he thinks that this is a miracle that is being shown in the case of the Prophet, and this is something which is untenable or irrational. So now we will come up to the answer or the response to this misconception. And the important thing to realize here is that Ustaz Javed Ahmad Ghamidi at the very outset says that this is a very bad misconception or a very incomprehensible thing which people have said, because as far as he is concerned, he believes in the miraculous powers of the Almighty, and if some miracle has taken place, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, because God Almighty has the power to do that. The only thing is that we have to see whether the Quran itself has called that night journey as something which was done in a physical way, or is it something which shown to him as a vision or as a dream. So he surmises at the outset that we have to understand that as far as this night ascension is concerned, this Isra or Miraj is concerned, these are four independent incidents. And what has happened is that narrators of Hadith have mixed them up, they have made them into one single incident. Whereas if we see, we'll find that they are four separate incidents. And then Ustaz Ghamidi analyzes these four separate incidents. The first three are found in the Quran, and the fourth one that we will discuss is found in the Hadith. So let us now view them one by one. The first of them is mentioned in the 17th surah, verse number 1, and it says, Subhanallazi asra bi abdihi laylam min al-masjid al-haram ila al-masjid al-aqsa allazi barakna hawlahu linuriyahu min ayatina innahu huwas sami'ul basir. Exalted is the being who one night took his servant from the sacred mosque to that distant mosque, whose surroundings we have blessed, so that we can make him observe some of our signs. Indeed, only he hears and knows all. So Ustaz Ghamidi, while looking at this verse, says that the verse has actually depicted the fact that the Prophet was took one night from Mecca, from the Masjid al-Haram to the distant mosque, which is the Masjid al-Aqsa. Now, as far as this incident is concerned, the 60th verse of this same surah has said that this took place in a vision, and that particular verse calls it to be ru'ya. And interestingly, all the exegetes of the Quran acknowledge this. The 60th verse of the Quran actually says that this night journey took place in a ru'ya, which is dream or a vision. And as I said, all the exegetes, as pointed out by Ustaz Ghamidi, they say yes, that this 60th verse actually points to the first verse of the surah, which says that the night journey took place in a dream. However, the only thing is that they make a different interpretation of the word ru'ya. So I will come to that, but now first let us take a look at the 60th verse of 17th surah. وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لَكَ إِنَّ رَبَّكَ أَحَاطَ بِالنَّاسِ وَمَا جَعَلْنَا الرُّؤْيَا الَّتِي أَرَيْنَاكَ إِلَّا فِتْنَةً لِلنَّاسِ وَالشَّجَرَةَ الْمَلْعُونَةَ فِي الْقُرْآنِ وَنُخَوِّفُهُمْ فِيمَا يَزِيدُهُمْ إِلَّا طُغْيَانًا كَبِيرًا. And remember when we said to you, your Lord has surrounded the people, and that dream we showed you, we only made it a trial for the people, and that tree as well, which has been cursed in the Quran. And we frightened them, but this thing is merely increasing them in their extreme rebelliousness. So viewers, if you look at the verse ru'ya, this is pointed out by Ustaz Ghamidi. He says that the word ru'ya is a common word used for a dream or a vision. And this is basically what the Quran has said. And if you look up parallel verses in the Quran, and about 700 narratives of the Prophet also mention this word ru'ya. So the word ru'ya actually refers to a dream. It's just an Arabic parallel of the word dream. And everywhere in the Quran, it has been used as a dream. And as I said, there are about 700 variants in Hadith literature which also say that this word ru'ya, the way these Hadiths depict it, is basically a dream. So when the Quran calls something to be a dream or a vision, who are we to have an opinion otherwise? And as I just said, the word ru'ya, the way it has been mentioned here, it is a very common Arabic word. And this Arabic word, as I said, is something which is also used copiously in the Quran. In fact, giving some examples himself, Ustaz Ghamidi has said that if you look at the usage of this word, you'll see that how often it has been used in this meaning to connote a dream. And he now gives an example from Surah Yusuf, and the verse says, إِذْ قَالَ يُوسُفُ لِأَبِيهِ يَا أَبَتِ إِنِّي رَأَيْتُ أَحَدَ عَشَرَ كَوْكَبًا وَالشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ رَأَيْتُهُمْ لِي سَاجِدِينَ قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ لَا تَقْصُصْ رُؤْيَاكَ عَلَى إِخْوَتِكَ فَيَكِيدُوا لَكَ كَيْدًا. Now look at the word ru'yaka. Again, this is the same word that we are discussing. And its translation, which is done by all exegetes, is very similar. And it is, Father, I have dreamt that there are 11 stars in the sun and the moon. I see them prostrating before me. His father replied, Son, do not narrate this dream. La taqsus ru'yaka. Do not narrate this dream of yours to your brothers, lest they engage in a conspiracy against you. So this is verse 4 and 5 of Surah Yusuf, the 12th surah, in which the word ru'ya is used, and it means a dream. And every exegete of the Quran has actually translated the word ru'ya as a dream as well. And then another verse, again from Surah Yusuf, it says, وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ إِنِّي أَرَى سَبْعَ بَقَرَاتٍ سَمَانٍ يَأْكُلُهُنَّ سَبْعُ أَجَافٍ وَسَبْعَ سُنبُلَاتٍ خُضْرٍ وَأُخَرُ يَابِسَاتٍ يَا أَيُّهَا الْمَلَوْ أَفْتُونِي فِي رُؤْيَايَ إِن كُنتُمْ لِلرُّؤْيَا تَعْبُرُونَ. So again, you can see the word ru'ya being used here, twice in fact in this verse. And the translation again, very, very common amongst all translators and exegetes of the Quran. Then one day the king said to his courtiers, I dream of 7 fat cows being devoured by 7 lean ones, and 7 green ears of corn and 7 other dry ones, and they too are eating the green ones. Courtiers, interpret this dream for me if you have this skill of interpretation. So you can see again the word roya is being used as a dream, and all translators are unanimously translating it as dream. Still another example is from Surah Safat, the famous incident of sacrifice, Abraham intending to sacrifice Ishmael. The word is قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ رُؤْيَا إِنَّا كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. So again the word ru'ya is used here, and it is said, and we call out to him saying, Abraham, you have fulfilled your dream. Thus do we reward those who do deeds befittingly. Again, you can see ru'ya is used here and it's translated as a dream. Finally, another example, this is from Surah Fath, the 48th surah. It says, لَقَدْ صَدَقَ اللَّهُ رَسُولَهُ الرُّؤْيَا بِالْحَقِّ لَتَدْخُلُنَّ الْمَسْجِدَ الْحَرَامِ إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ آمِنِينَ مُحَلِّقِينَ رُؤُوسَكُمْ وَمُقَصِّرِينَ. God showed his messenger a true dream. Indeed, if God wills, you shall definitely enter the mosque in peace with hair shaven or shortened. So viewers, you can clearly see, as Ustaz Ghamidi has said, that as far as the Quran is concerned, everywhere in the Quran, wherever the word ru'ya is mentioned, it is translated by all translators and exegetes as dream. It is only at this one instance in Surah Bani Israel where it occurs that they have ventured to give it a different meaning. And that different meaning is that they think that the word ru'ya here means to see with the naked eye, to see something with your own eyes. So they call it as ru'ya al-ain. So one is ru'ya, which means that you are sleeping and you see something in your imagination or in your sleep. And they say that the word ru'ya is also used not only to see something in a dream, so it also means to see something actually, the way you would see when your eyes are open. Now, our exegetes of our hadith literature and other people have not been able to find any example of this usage in classical Arabic poetry. This is a very important thing that we have to know, that there's not a single place in classical Arabic poetry that they have pointed out that the word roya or dream is also something which means to see something when you are not in sleep. You are awake and you see with your eyes, and this is also called a roya. However, they have come up with a couplet of Mutanabbi, And also they have come up with an explanation of Abdullah ibn Abbas's interpretation of this word, according to which they think that this word also means seeing something by the naked eye. So the verse, the couplet of Al-Mutanabbi, if you take one of his hemistiches, it says, وَرُؤْيَاكَ أَحْلَى فِي الْعُيُونِ مِنَ الْغُمُزِ, which means your meeting is sweeter for eyes than sleep. Now this narrative is by Al-Mutanabbi. Before we actually see what it means, the first thing that we have to understand is that he does not belong to that era of poets which can be used to adduce any meaning from. So we know that in Arabic literature, only those poets can be adduced from to take a meaning from their couplets of a particular word, who either existed in the pre-Islamic times or who found both the Islamic times and the Prophet's times. So the first of them are called the Jahiliyyah poets, and the second are called Al-Mukhadaramun. So in order for a poet to be eligible that his poetry can be adduced to take a meaning from a word, to find the meaning of a word, then he has to belong to either the Jahiliyyah period or to the Al-Mukhadaramun period. Now the first thing that comes to light is that this couplet or this line is from Al-Mutanabbi, and he was in the 3rd century, and he does not belong to these two eras, and therefore anything that he says does not qualify in the first place. But the important thing is that Ustaz Ghamidi has pointed out that even if you take this couplet, you'll see that Mutanabbi himself is not taking this word ru'ya to mean that you see something from your naked eye. Here what he is actually saying is that the word ru'ya means the eye of your imagination, which is something that you see, but of course in that case the word is used metaphorically. It's not used in the literal meaning that you see from your naked eye. When I say that I see something from the eye of my imagination, it is not seeing the way we see things. It is basically imagining something. So the narrative says, وَرُؤْيَاكَ أَحْلَى فِي الْعُيُونِ مِنَ الْغُمُزِ, your meeting is sweeter for eyes than sleep. Again, the poet is telling us that the way that he has imagined his beloved is something which is much more sweeter than the eyes could have imagined if they were sleeping. So this is something which is clearly metaphorical use, or in other words, the word ru'ya here does not mean to see from the eyes as people have understood. It actually means to imagine something, which of course something entirely different. So another thing that people have brought up to critique Ustaz Ghamidi's view is that not only Mutanabbi but also Abdullah ibn Abbas has said that the word ru'ya can be used to connote the fact that you see something from your naked eye. And for this they cite the athar or an opinion of Abdullah ibn Abbas. It's from Tabari, and it says that this word ru'ya is actually ru'ya ayn uriyaha Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which means that it is something that the Prophet saw from his eyes, or the word ru'ya means that he saw something from his eyes. Now again, this is something which people have understood, that perhaps Abdullah ibn Abbas is telling us that ru'ya also means to see from the naked eye. Well, Ustaz Ghamidi says that even this is not correct. Even Abdullah ibn Abbas is not saying this. Again, he's saying the same thing that we can see was said by Al-Mutanabbi in his couplet. So this word ru'ya ayn, what actually he means is the same as Mutanabbi's couplet has said, which means to see something from the eye of imagination. In other words, he was saying that this is what the Prophet saw from his eye of imagination. So in other words, it is not correct to say that Abdullah ibn Abbas was telling us that the word ru'ya also means to see something from the eye. And the critique which Ustaz Ghamidi has presented on Abdullah ibn Abbas's view, if we take this view to be the same as what he has understood, that is to see something from the eye of the imagination, is very simple. He says that if you are imagining something, then you are separate from that imagination. You know who you are and you're imagining something out of that. So this could be termed as ru'yal ayn. But if you look at the first verse of Surah Bani Israel, this cannot be applied there, because in that the person who is seeing and what is seen actually, they cannot be separated. They are one. So this cannot be spoken of that verse as well. So in other words, in the first place, Abdullah ibn Abbas never said that ru'ya ayn means to see something by the eye, as has been generally understood. In the second place, if whatever he has said is understood rightly, it actually means to see something by the eyes of his imagination, or one's imagination. And if this is correct, then The critique on this view is, if it is correctly ascribed to Abdullah ibn Abbas, that when you see that you are seeing something from the eyes of your imagination, then you know who you are, and the imagined thing is a separate entity. But in this case of Surah Bani Israel, the Prophet is part of that vision, if it is taken to be correct. So the Roya Ain also cannot be applied here. Now let us come to the second and third instances which are found, and as I said, they are found in the Quran, and both of them occur, in fact, in Surah Najm, which is the second and the third incident, and these two occurring together. So they say, وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى مَا ضَلَّ صَاحِبُكُمْ وَمَا غَوَى وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَى عَلَّمَهُ شَدِيدُ الْقُوَى ذُو مِرَّةٍ فَاسْتَوَى وَهُوَ بِالْأُفُقِ الْأَعْلَى ثُمَّ دَنَا فَتَدَلَّى فَكَانَ قَابَ قَوْسَيْنِ أَوْ أَدْنَى فَأَوْحَى إِلَى عَبْدِهِ مَا أَوْحَى مَا كَذَبَ الْفُؤَادُ مَا رَأَى أَفَتُمَارُونَهُ عَلَى مَا يَرَى. So this is the second incident, and it is described in the first 12 verses of Surah Najm. And the translation of these verses are, the stars when they fall bear witness that your companion is neither lost nor has he gone astray. He does not speak out of his own fancy. The Quran is but a revelation sent down to him. He has been taught by one mighty in power, towering in character and endued with wisdom. Thus he appeared such that he was on the higher horizon. Then he drew near and bent down until he was within 2 bows' length, or even closer. God then revealed to his servant that which he revealed. Whatever he saw was not his heart's delusion. Then will you now quarrel with him over what he is seeing with his eyes? This is the second incident, viewers, and Ustaz Ghamidi says that this is actually Gabriel, whom the Prophet saw, and he was standing on this earth, on this very planet, and he saw Gabriel. And this is something which is absolutely clear. And when people actually thought that this is not Gabriel but God whom the Prophet had seen, Aisha radiallahu anha corrected them, and he said that this is not correct. I am the first person who asked the Prophet, and he said that this incident in Surah Najm, as well as the second one, which I'm just going to cite, which comes right after it, they both speak of Gabriel being seen by the Prophet, not in a dream, not in any vision, but by his naked eye. So let's now move on to the third incident, which is actually also part of Surah Najm, and these are the very next verses of Surah Najm. So they read, وَلَقَدْ رَآهُ نَزْلَةً أُخْرَى عِنْدَ سِدْرَةِ الْمُنْتَهَى عِنْدَهَا جَنَّةُ الْمَأْوَى إِذْ يَغْشَى السِّدْرَةَ مَا يَغْشَى مَا زَاغَ الْبَصَرُ وَمَا طَغَى لَقَدْ رَآ مِنْ آيَاتِ رَبِّهِ الْكُبْرَى. And he has seen him once again descending near the farthest lot tree, close to which is the paradise of repose, when the lot tree was being covered with that which was covering it. His sight did not falter, nor lost its poise. He has seen his Lord's great signs. Look at the words, his sight did not falter, nor lost its poise. Again, these very words show that the Prophet was seeing something with his naked eye. He was not dreaming, and he was actually viewing Gabriel. And as I said earlier on, both these incidents, they occurred in the time when the Prophet was actually physically, visually seeing Gabriel descending from the heavens. So these are now the 3 incidents that we have covered, and in this regard, as I said, these 2 incidents cannot be made any part of Isra or the night journey, because these 2 incidents clearly show that the Prophet saw Gabriel descending, and it is not part of any journey of his that he did or any ascension that he undertook. Let us now look at the 4th incident, and this incident has been reported in various hadith books. We will narrate a text from Al-Jami al-Sahih of Imam Bukhari. This is text number 7517, and it is narrated by Anas ibn Malik. The night Allah's Messenger was taken for a journey from the sacred mosque, 3 persons came to him in a dream while he was sleeping in the sacred mosque before the divine revelation began. One of them said, "Which one of them is he?" The second said, "He is the best of them." The third angel said, "Take the best of them." Only that much happened on that night, and he did not see them until they came on another night after divine revelation came to him. So viewers, you can clearly see that in this initial part of this narrative, it says that this incident occurred before divine revelation began to Prophet Muhammad. So this is something to note. Now let us resume. At that time, his eyes were asleep, but his heart was not. And so is the case with the prophets. Their eyes sleep, while their hearts do not sleep. So those angels did not talk to him till they carried him and placed him beside the well of Zamzam. From among them, Gabriel took charge of him. Gabriel cut open the part of his body between his throat and the middle of his chest, which is his heart, and took all the material out of his chest and abdomen, and then washed it with Zamzam water with his own hands, till he cleansed the inside of his body. And then a gold tray containing a gold bowl full of belief and wisdom was brought, and then Gabriel stuffed his chest and throat, blood vessels with it, and then closed it, which is the chest. He then ascended with him to the heaven of the world and knocked on one of its doors. The dwellers of the heaven asked, "Who is it?" He said, "Gabriel." They said, "Who is accompanying you?" He said, "Muhammad." They said, "Has he been called?" He said, "Yes." They said, "He is welcomed." So the dwellers of the heaven became pleased with his arrival, and they did not know what Allah would do to the Prophet on earth unless Allah informed them. The Prophet Muhammad met Adam over the nearest heaven. Gabriel said to the Prophet, "He is your father, greet him." The Prophet greeted him, and Adam returned his greeting and said, "Welcome, O my son. Oh, what a good son you are." Behold, he saw two flowing rivers while he was in the nearest heaven. He asked, "What are these two rivers, O Gabriel?" Gabriel said, "These are the sources of the Nile and the Euphrates." Then Gabriel took him around that heaven, and behold, he saw another river at the bank of which there was a palace built of pearls and emeralds. He put his hand into the river and found its mud like musk of asfar. He asked, "What is this, O Gabriel?" Gabriel replied, "This is the Kausar, which your Lord has kept hidden for you." Then Gabriel ascended with him to the second heaven, and the angels asked the same questions as those on the first heaven. That is, "Who is it?" Gabriel replied, "Gabriel." They said, "Who is accompanying you?" He said, "Muhammad." They asked, "Has he been sent for?" He said, "Yes." Then they said, "He is welcomed." Then he, or Gabriel, ascended with the Prophet to the third heaven, and the angels said the same as the angels of the first and the second heavens had said. Then he ascended with him to the fourth heaven, and they said the same. And then he ascended with him to the fifth heaven, and they too said the same. And then he ascended with him to the sixth heaven, and they also said the same. Then he ascended with him to the seventh heaven, and they also said the same. On each heaven there were prophets whose names he had mentioned, and of whom I remember: Idris on the second heaven, Aaron on the fourth heaven, another prophet whose name I don't remember on the fifth heaven, Abraham on the sixth heaven, and Moses on the seventh heaven, because of his privilege of talking to Allah directly. Moses said to Allah, "O Lord, I thought that none would be raised up above me." But Gabriel ascended with him, that is the Prophet, for a distance above that, the distance of which only Allah knows, if he reached the lot tree, beyond which none may pass. And then the Irresistible, the Lord of honor and majesty, approached and came closer till he, Gabriel, was about 2 bow lengths or even nearer. Among the things which Allah revealed to him then was 50 prayers were enjoined on his followers in a day and a night. Then the Prophet descended till he met Moses, and then Moses stopped him and asked, "O Muhammad, what did your Lord enjoin upon you?" The Prophet replied, "He enjoined upon me to offer 50 prayers in a day and a night." Moses said, "Your followers cannot do that. Go back, so that your Lord may reduce it for you and for them." So the Prophet turned to Gabriel as if he wanted to consult him about that issue. Gabriel told him of his opinion, saying, "Yes, if you wish." So Gabriel ascended with him to the Almighty's presence and said, while he was in his place, O Lord, please lighten our burden, as my followers cannot do that. So Allah deducted for him 10 prayers, whereupon he returned to Moses, who stopped him again and kept on sending him back to his Lord till the enjoined prayers were reduced to only 5. Then Moses stopped him when the prayers had been reduced to 5 and said, O Muhammad, by Allah, I tried to persuade my nation Bani Israel to do less than this, but they could not do it and gave it up. However, your followers are weaker in body, heart, sight, and hearing. So return to your Lord so that he may lighten your burden. The Prophet turned towards Gabriel for advice, and Gabriel did not disapprove of that. So he ascended with him for the 5th time. The Prophet said, O Lord, my followers are weak in their bodies, hearts, hearing, and constitution, so lighten our burden. On that, God said, O Muhammad. The Prophet replied, Labbaik and Sa'daik, which means I am present. Allah said, the word that comes from me does not change, so it will be as I enjoined on you in the mother book. Allah added, every good deed will be rewarded as 10 times, so it is 50 prayers in the mother of the book in reward, but you are to offer only 5 in practice. The Prophet returned to Moses, who asked, what have you done? He said, he has lightened our burden. He has given us for every good deed a 10-fold reward. Moses said, by Allah, I tried to make the Bani Israel observe less than that, but they gave it up. So go back to your Lord that he may lighten your burden further. Allah's messenger said, O Moses, by Allah, I feel shy of returning too many times to my Lord. On that, Gabriel said, descend in Allah's name. The Prophet then woke while he was in the sacred mosque at Mecca. So viewers, if you look at this narrative, this is the incident which is mentioned in a Hadith, and this is basically the Miraj incident, or the incident in which the Prophet went from this world to the heavens. And you can clearly see that in the first verse of Surah Bani Israel, there is no such mention of he ascending to the skies. It only tells us that he traveled from one mosque to another mosque. So basically the incident of Miraj or ascension or the night journey is something which has been inferred from this narrative. And this narrative, the way it has been reported by Imam Bukhari, he has cited these narratives one after the other, and they are from Anas ibn Malik, Abu Zar, Malik ibn Sa'sa, and Abu Huraira. So these are the 4 people. And again, in the case of Anas ibn Malik, you will find that he has narrated this incident from Abu Zar and Malik ibn Sa'sa as well. And in the one in which Anas ibn Malik has reported this incident, from whom this incident is reported by Sharik ibn Abdullah, is the one that I have just cited. And there is another variant from Anas ibn Abdullah which has been reported by Sabit al-Bunani. And it is this variant of Sabit al-Bunani which has been given preference by Imam Muslim, in which all the issues have occurred, in which all these 4 incidents have been mixed up and made one, and people have generally relied on them. But now look at how Imam Bukhari has taken them up. And if you look at them, you'll see that the narrative which Ustaz has picked up, which is from Sharik ibn Abdullah, how clearly it tells us that this incident is something which took place in his dream, because it starts off with this fact that he was dreaming when 3 people came. And then it said that this was done before he was given or called for prophethood. The first time it was done, and the second time it was done was later on. So clearly you can see that this has happened. And when the narrative ends, the important thing is, look at what the words are. Then the Prophet woke while he was in the sacred mosque at Mecca. So you can see that this narrative is clearly in line with what has been said in the Quran as well, that this is something which took place in the dream, although this is a very separate incident. It has nothing to do with the Isra incident which has been mentioned in the Quran in Surah Bani Israel. This is a separate incident, and if you look at this separate incident and look at the narrative or the variant which is recorded by Sharik ibn Abdullah, it tells us that it was something which happened in a dream. Now, Of course, Sharik ibn Abdullah is someone who has been in pagan. He's someone about whom it is said that he did not have a bad memory. He would post-place, he would pre-place things, he would mix up things. But again, if you have to look at this narrative, then you will have to tell us, or at least divulge how Sharik ibn Abdullah has been up to what he has generally been guilty of. For clearly, one of the allegations which are made against his narrative is that it speaks of this incident occurring before the Prophet being called to prophethood, because you see it has said that it occurred when 3 people came to him in his dream before he was commissioned as a prophet, and then it happened again. But this allegation does not hold, because we can see if the incident of Miraj took place, as we see that earliest estimation about is 15 months into the Nabuwah, and some people say it was before Hijrah, whatever the time. But this particular allegation cannot be leveled against this narrative, because you see in this narrative, there are 2 separate visions engulfed in one. So in the first vision, or it can be said 2 separate incidents in that vision, that in the first instance, when these people came, it was before Nabuwah, and in the second instance, it was after Nabuwah. So clearly, if whatever happened after Nabuwah, it happened clearly as this narrative says, or whatever the content says, once he had been commissioned. So you can clearly allocate both these incidents within the narrative to be different, and therefore this allegation does not hold. So in other words, we can see that as far as this narrative is concerned, it clearly shows that it also occurred in a dream. And if you look at the 3 other variants which Imam Bukhari has cited in his Al-Jami al-Sahih, although they do not mention the word that he was sleeping, but if you look at, as you see, all the variants, and including this variant by Sharik ibn Abdullah, there is nothing wrong to assume at all that as far as this variant of Sharik ibn Abdullah is concerned, it is depicting the true picture that the Prophet was sleeping and this whole thing took place in his vision or in a dream. Now, finally, viewers, before we end up this discussion, one important thing is that what exactly was the significance of the dream, which is shown at least in the case of Isra, which is the first of these instances. You see, it has been said that the Prophet was taken from the Baitullah or the Baitul Haram to the Baitul Maqdis. And if the symbolism in this dream is understood, it actually means that it was the Prophet who would be consigned with the Baitullah and the Baitul Maqdis, or the reins of the Baitullah and the Baitul Maqdis later on. It was like a prophecy shown to him. It were glad tidings that were given to him that one day he will be given the custodianship of both these mosques, the way has been taken from one mosque to another. They will come into his custodianship. The people, the mushrikun or the idolaters in the case of the Baitullah, and the people or the Jews and the Christians who were in charge of the Baitul Maqdis, as far as they are concerned, they have not fulfilled their duties towards these respective mosques. The Israelites or the Bani Israel, they proved to be dishonest in their duty. The idolaters also proved dishonest in their duty. So now the custodianship of both these mosques will be assigned to him. So this is basically the symbolism that is found in the first Isra incident, which is of course called a dream by the Quran. The last one, which you can see again, which is found in the Hadith of Imam Bukhari, shows how the Prophet was traveled in his dream, and how these prayers are actually meant to depict the fact that basically a person is meant to worship the Almighty all the time. And it is as if saying that he should be given 50 prayers, or he should offer 50 prayers. And when the burden was lessened and it came to 5, again, this is a symbolism to tell us that, well, basically we have to remember God at all times, but at least on these 5 occasions, it is mandatory. So again, we have to interpret the contents of this dream in a way that satisfies this symbolism. So to sum up, we can say, dear viewers, that as far as this objection is concerned, it does not hold any ground. These are 4 separate incidents which Ustaz Ghamidi has pointed out, and they were made into one by narrators. They are separate. 3 of them are mentioned in the Quran. We have seen them, and 1 of them is mentioned in Hadith. 2 of them occurred in a dream or a vision shown to the Prophet, and 2 of them were real life incidents.